They denied a black colonel's flight while he escorted a fallen soldier's remains. They regretted it. Colonel James Carter had always been a man of quiet strength and deep conviction. From the moment he had joined the military, he had understood that service was not just about orders and missions. It was about responsibility, honor, and the duty to others. Over the years, he had faced situations that would challenge the resolve of anyone: dangerous missions overseas, difficult decisions in the heat of combat, and moments of sorrow when comrades did not return home. Each experience had shaped him into a leader who was respected not just for his rank, but for his integrity and his ability to face hardship with grace. That morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Carter sat quietly in his home, reflecting on the latest orders he had received. The call had come late the night before. One of his fellow soldiers, a young man who had served with distinction and courage, had died while on duty overseas. His family wanted him brought home so that they could say goodbye properly, to honor the life he had lived and the sacrifices he had made. The task that Carter had been given was simple in theory but heavy in responsibility. He was to escort the soldier's remains safely back to his hometown. For Carter, the news brought a mixture of emotions. There was the sorrow of losing another member of the military family he had been part of for so many years. There was also a sense of solemn pride, knowing that he had been trusted to ensure that the fallen soldier would receive the respect and dignity he deserved. This was not a task that could be rushed or treated lightly. Every detail mattered, from the handling of the casket to the timing of the journey and the way the family would be supported during the process. Carter understood that for the family, this would be a moment of profound grief, and he was determined to make it as meaningful and honorable as possible. As he prepared for the journey, Carter thought about the young soldier he would be escorting. He remembered hearing stories from his comrades about the soldier's courage, his sense of humor, and the way he had always put others before himself. It was difficult to imagine the vibrant life that had been cut short, and Carter felt a personal responsibility to carry out his duty with the utmost care. In the military, these missions were more than just assignments. They were a final act of respect, a way to honor the life and service of those who had given everything. The preparations were meticulous. Carter went over the travel plans, checked every detail of the arrangements, and coordinated with both military and civilian authorities to ensure that nothing would go wrong. He knew that even a small mistake could cause unnecessary distress to the family or disrespect to the fallen soldier. As he packed his bag, he carried not just his personal belongings but also a deep sense of responsibility. Every uniform, every document, every item had a purpose, and he made sure that each one was ready for the journey ahead. Even with all the planning, Carter could not fully prepare for the emotional weight of the task. He had escorted fallen soldiers before, but each one carried its own story, its own sorrow, and its own lessons. As he sat in the quiet of his home, he allowed himself a moment to reflect on the fragility of life and the bonds that connected those who served together. Military service was not just about strategy and duty, it was about community, loyalty, and shared sacrifice. These moments of reflection reminded him why he had chosen this path, and why he continued to serve with dedication, even after decades in uniform. Carter also thought about the family he would be meeting. He imagined the mother and father waiting anxiously, the siblings struggling to come to terms with the loss, and the friends who had served alongside the young man. He knew that his role was not only to transport the remains but also to offer reassurance, to act with compassion, and to ensure that the family felt supported in every way possible. In his mind, he pictured the ceremony, the gentle handling of the casket, and the quiet moments of remembrance that would mark the young soldier's return. Every decision he made was guided by the desire to honor the life that had been lost. As the hours passed, Carter prepared himself mentally for the journey. He reminded himself of the importance of focus, of maintaining composure, and of leading by example. This was not a moment for personal feelings or distractions, it was a moment to serve others and to fulfill a duty that was sacred in its significance. He reviewed protocols, checked transportation schedules, and confirmed arrangements with the relevant military offices. Each step brought him closer to the moment when he would take responsibility for ensuring that the fallen soldier returned home safely. The weight of the mission was not lost on Carter. He understood that escorting a fallen soldier was a solemn honor, one that carried with it a deep moral and emotional responsibility. It was a task that required patience, respect, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right. He reflected on the sacrifices made by all soldiers, the risks they faced, and the courage it took to put their lives on the line. In this quiet morning, he felt the presence of history, the weight of tradition, and the enduring values of service that had guided him throughout his career. Carter's thoughts then turned inward, to his own journey in the military. He had faced moments of doubt and fear, but he had always relied on his principles, his training, and his belief in the greater good. This mission, he realized, was an extension of everything he had learned and lived. It was a chance to embody the values he had long held dear: honor, integrity, compassion, and courage. As he packed the last of his items and checked his notes, he felt a quiet determination settle over him. He would carry out this mission with the dignity and care that the fallen soldier and his family deserved. Before leaving, Carter took a moment to look around his home, to draw strength from familiar surroundings, and to center himself for the journey ahead. He thought about the journey itself, the miles that would separate him from the family waiting for closure, and the responsibility that rested squarely on his shoulders. Each step of the way would be guided by his unwavering commitment to service and his deep respect for the life he was escorting. As he stepped outside into the crisp morning air, Carter felt a sense of purpose that went beyond duty. This was more than a mission, it was a testament to the bonds of service, the importance of honor, and the enduring impact of a life lived with courage. With each step toward the awaiting transport, he carried with him not only his own experience but the hopes, respect, and gratitude of everyone who understood the significance of his task. In that moment, Colonel James Carter was not just a military officer preparing for a journey, he was a guardian of dignity, a witness to sacrifice, and a living example of the values that define those who serve. The path ahead was filled with solemn responsibility, but he faced it with calm determination, knowing that his actions would ensure that the fallen soldier was brought home with the honor and respect he deserved. This mission, quiet yet profoundly important, was a reflection of everything Carter had ever believed in, that service was not just about orders, but about people, life, and the lasting power of human decency. Colonel James Carter had been preparing for the journey with a sense of solemn responsibility, but nothing could have prepared him for the obstacle that awaited him the next morning. After arriving at the airport and completing all the standard procedures, he approached the airline counter to confirm his flight arrangements. He carried with him the casket of the fallen soldier, ensuring that all the proper documentation and military clearances were in order. He had done everything by the book, and yet, he was about to face a situation that no protocol could have anticipated. The airline agent, a young man in a crisp uniform, looked at the paperwork and then at Carter with a hint of hesitation. "I'm sorry, Colonel," the agent said, his voice polite but firm. "We won't be able to accommodate this flight with the casket. There are logistical issues." Carter's eyebrows knit together. He had expected delays or minor complications, but this sounded different. "Logistical issues?" he asked, keeping his tone calm. "I've coordinated everything with your operations team. Everything is approved." The agent hesitated again, glancing at a manager who had just arrived. Carter noticed a subtle tension in their body language, a quiet uncertainty that betrayed more than what they were saying. "It's complicated," the manager finally said, avoiding direct eye contact. Carter could feel the weight of the moment settling in. Something about this situation did not feel right. He had escorted fallen soldiers before, and he had never encountered such resistance when all the paperwork was in order. Carter took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay composed. He had faced far more dangerous and unpredictable situations in his career. He straightened his uniform and looked the manager directly in the eye. "With all due respect," he said, "I am on official military duty. I am escorting the remains of a fallen soldier. This is not a personal matter. This is about honoring a life and fulfilling my responsibility. I need to know why this cannot proceed." There was a pause, a silence that felt heavier than any combat zone Carter had ever entered. Finally, the manager spoke in a low voice, choosing his words carefully. "There are restrictions on the flight. We have certain policies about cargo and passengers. This is standard procedure." Carter nodded slowly. "I understand policies," he said. "I follow procedures every day in the military. But this is not ordinary cargo. This is a fallen soldier. There are specific regulations that govern this. I have every clearance. I expect the airline to follow the law and military protocol." Even as he spoke, Carter felt a rising frustration. The resistance he was encountering did not make sense. He had verified every requirement, every detail, and yet he was being blocked from fulfilling his mission. He began to suspect the truth behind the polite language of logistical issues and policies. There was an unspoken reason, one that made him tighten his jaw and steel his resolve. It was subtle, but Carter had faced prejudice in many forms throughout his life. He knew it when he saw it. Despite the growing tension, Carter remained composed. His training in leadership and diplomacy had taught him to handle delicate situations with patience and firmness. He requested to speak with higher authorities within the airline and made sure that his military contacts were informed. He knew that escalating the issue respectfully and through proper channels was the best way to ensure that the mission could continue without further unnecessary obstacles. As he waited for a response, Carter reflected on the significance of what was happening. This was not just about a flight, it was about respect, dignity, and the fundamental principles of service. Every fallen soldier deserved to be treated with honor, regardless of who escorted them or what color their uniform might be. The thought of a soldier's remains being delayed or treated as less than sacred because of bias filled him with quiet determination. He would not let this happen. News of the delay began to spread among airport staff and, eventually, through the military contacts Carter had reached out to. Colleagues, fellow officers, and veteran advocacy groups were informed of the situation. Messages of support and guidance began to arrive, reminding Carter that he was not alone in facing this challenge. There were people ready to stand behind him and ensure that the mission was carried out correctly. This gave him strength, but it also underscored the absurdity of the obstacle in the first place. Hours passed, and Carter maintained his composure, though the weight of the situation was not lost on him. He thought about the family waiting for their loved one, the friends who had served alongside the fallen soldier, and the importance of completing his duty with dignity. Every moment of delay was a moment of added stress for the family, and Carter felt an even stronger resolve to break through the obstacle. He was not just fighting for protocol, he was fighting for respect, for honor, and for the principle that every soldier's life, and every soldier's death, mattered equally. Finally, after extensive conversations and escalating pressure from military officials, the airline began to show signs of reconsideration. Executives who had initially been distant now started engaging directly, understanding that the story was becoming public and that failing to resolve the situation properly could have serious consequences. Carter observed the shift quietly, knowing that persistence, calm authority, and moral clarity often worked better than confrontation alone. He continued to advocate firmly but respectfully, emphasizing that this was a matter of justice and duty. During this time, Carter also thought about the emotional impact of the situation on himself. He had faced loss before, had comforted grieving families, and had seen the harsh realities of war. Yet, there was something profoundly personal about being obstructed in carrying out a sacred duty. It was a reminder that service to others often comes with unexpected challenges and that courage sometimes requires standing against subtle, everyday injustices as much as visible dangers. Carter used the waiting period to double-check every detail of the mission. He reviewed flight plans, coordinated with ground crews, and prepared notes for the family to ensure that everything would proceed smoothly once the flight was cleared. This proactive focus kept him grounded and reinforced the fact that, despite external obstacles, he could control the way he handled the situation. It was a lesson in patience, resilience, and the power of careful preparation. By late afternoon, the airline finally agreed to allow Carter to board with the casket, albeit after additional assurances and documentation. The relief was profound, but Carter knew that the ordeal had revealed something deeper than a simple policy misunderstanding. It had highlighted the continuing presence of prejudice in unexpected places and the importance of standing firm when faced with it. He felt a renewed sense of purpose not only in completing the mission but in advocating for fairness, respect, and the dignity of all who serve. As the casket was loaded and preparations for departure were finalized, Carter reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. He thought about the fallen soldier, the family awaiting closure, and the broader lessons of respect, courage, and perseverance. Every challenge, every delay, and every moment of frustration had reinforced the significance of his duty. This was not just about getting from one point to another, it was about honoring life, confronting injustice, and demonstrating the unwavering values that define true service. Stepping onto the plane, Carter felt a mixture of relief and solemn determination. The mission that had begun with unexpected resistance was now proceeding, but the memory of the denial would remain with him. It was a reminder that honor and respect must sometimes be defended with courage and patience, and that even in the most structured environments, human biases could create obstacles that required attention and action. Throughout the flight, Carter remained focused on the task at hand. He ensured that the casket was handled with care, that every protocol was observed, and that the fallen soldiers' remains were treated with the dignity and reverence they deserved. In every moment, he carried with him the weight of responsibility, the respect of the military, and the hope that the family would receive their loved one without further difficulty. The journey became more than transportation, it became a powerful statement of resilience, honor, and the importance of standing firm in the face of adversity. By the time the plane touched down at its destination, Carter had not only completed the mission but had also sent a clear message: the service and sacrifice of every soldier deserve respect, and those who stand in the way of that respect will ultimately be held accountable. He knew that the story of the denial would be remembered, discussed, and learned from, and that his calm, persistent advocacy had made a difference not just for one family, but for the principle of dignity and equality in service. Colonel James Carter's struggle with the airline had drawn attention beyond the airport. What began as a frustrating obstacle had quickly transformed into a larger story about respect, duty, and fairness. Word of the incident reached his military superiors, who immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. For them, it was clear that a highly trained officer, on an official mission to escort a fallen soldier, was being delayed unnecessarily. They understood that this was more than just a logistical hiccup, it was an affront to the principles that the military upheld, and it could not go unchallenged. Carter, meanwhile, maintained his calm and focused demeanor, but he felt a growing sense of urgency. The family awaiting their loved one deserved closure, and every delay only increased the emotional weight of the moment. He began contacting veteran advocacy organizations, explaining the situation and providing all necessary documentation to support his case. These organizations, dedicated to ensuring that veterans and their families were treated with dignity, quickly recognized the injustice and pledged to assist. Soon, emails, phone calls, and messages of support poured in from multiple sources, amplifying the urgency of the situation. As the story began to circulate, news outlets picked up on it. Reporters, always alert to stories of injustice and human interest, contacted Carter's office for details. He spoke carefully, emphasizing the mission, the fallen soldier, and the need for respect and adherence to military protocol. He avoided anger or blame, choosing instead to highlight the moral importance of the situation. By framing the story in terms of duty and honor rather than conflict, Carter ensured that public attention focused on the core issue, the right to treat every fallen soldier with dignity. The airline, now aware of the growing scrutiny, faced mounting pressure. Executives and managers were suddenly confronted with the reality that their actions or inactions were being examined by the public and the military alike. Internal meetings were called, emails circulated, and legal advisors reviewed policies. The company realized that this was no longer a simple internal decision, it had become a national issue, one that could affect their reputation and credibility if handled poorly. Carter's persistence and the support from advocacy groups had turned a personal struggle into a matter of accountability and principle. Carter also reflected on the broader implications of the incident. He thought about how many other soldiers and officers might have faced similar obstacles without the resources or determination to challenge them. This mission was more than just escorting one fallen soldier, it was about setting a precedent that respect and dignity must be upheld in all circumstances. The weight of this realization did not intimidate him, it motivated him. He knew that by handling the situation with integrity and patience, he could create a positive example for others to follow. During this time, Carter continued to coordinate with the military. He kept his superiors informed of every development and worked closely with their legal and logistical teams. They drafted formal letters to the airline, outlining the legal and procedural requirements for transporting the fallen soldier. They emphasized that the mission was part of official military duty, backed by federal regulations, and that any delay could be considered a violation of those regulations. Carter knew that careful documentation and clear communication would strengthen his position, and he approached each step with methodical precision. Meanwhile, the public response continued to grow. Social media posts shared the story widely, with people expressing support for Carter and outrage at the airline's initial refusal. Messages poured in from veterans, active military personnel, and civilians alike, all emphasizing the importance of honoring those who serve. Carter found himself both encouraged and humbled by the widespread support. It reminded him that the values he had spent his life upholding, integrity, respect, and service, were shared by many others. As the pressure mounted, the airline began to take the situation more seriously. Executives realized that ignoring the issue could have long-term consequences for the company's reputation and customer trust. They engaged in direct discussions with Carter's military contacts and legal advisors, seeking a resolution that would comply with both the law and public expectations. Every meeting, every call, and every email became a step toward ensuring that the mission could proceed without further disruption. Carter, always calm and professional, continued to emphasize the importance of dignity and respect for the fallen soldier, ensuring that the focus remained on the mission rather than personal grievances. Throughout this period, Carter also considered the emotional impact on the family awaiting their loved one. He knew that delays and obstacles could add unnecessary stress to their grief, and he made it a priority to keep them informed as much as possible. He wanted them to feel reassured that every effort was being made to bring their loved one home with honor. This focus on compassion and empathy, even while navigating bureaucratic challenges, highlighted Carter's leadership and his understanding of the human side of military service. As discussions with the airline continued, Carter began to see signs of progress. Policies were being reviewed, managers were reconsidering their decisions, and there was a growing recognition that the situation had to be corrected. Yet, he remained vigilant. He knew that past experiences had shown him how easily promises could be delayed or ignored if not closely monitored. He continued to document every interaction, every email, and every phone call, ensuring that there would be no ambiguity or excuse for failure. The turning point came when the airline's executives met with representatives from the military and advocacy groups. The conversation was frank and focused. Carter's presence was calm but authoritative, reinforcing the importance of the mission and the expectations of military protocol. The executives acknowledged that the situation had been mishandled and began to outline concrete steps to ensure that the flight could proceed. Carter's persistence, patience, and professional demeanor had created a situation where compromise was no longer an option. They had to comply. Finally, after hours of negotiation and advocacy, the airline agreed to allow Colonel Carter to board the flight with the fallen soldiers' remains. Relief washed over him, tempered by the knowledge of how unnecessary the struggle had been. Yet, he also understood the significance of the moment. The mission could now proceed, and the fallen soldiers' family would finally receive the closure they deserved. Carter took a quiet moment to reflect on the journey so far: the frustration, the tension, the advocacy, and the unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Every challenge had reinforced the importance of integrity, perseverance, and the moral courage to stand firm. Even as the flight preparations moved forward, Carter remained focused on the larger lesson of the incident. He thought about the importance of advocating for fairness and respect, about the need to confront subtle forms of bias wherever they appeared, and about the value of persistence in ensuring that justice is served. This experience was more than a mission; it was a reminder that even small actions, when guided by principle, can have a lasting impact on institutions, communities, and individuals. By the time the casket was ready for transport, Carter had not only secured the approval he needed but had also set an example of leadership under pressure. His calm, professional approach, combined with unwavering commitment to duty, had turned a potentially humiliating and discouraging situation into a demonstration of resilience, integrity, and moral clarity. He knew that the story would resonate beyond this single incident, inspiring others to act with courage and principle in the face of challenges. As the final preparations for the flight were completed, Carter reflected on the emotional and professional journey of the past hours. He had faced resistance, subtle bias, and unnecessary obstacles, but he had remained composed and focused on the mission. Through careful planning, advocacy, and unwavering attention to detail, he had ensured that the fallen soldier would be honored appropriately and that the family awaiting closure would finally receive it. Colonel James Carter's experience during this time became more than just a personal story; it became a symbol of the importance of standing firm, advocating for what is right, and ensuring that dignity and respect are upheld in every circumstance. It showed how one individual, guided by principle and determination, could navigate complex challenges and achieve justice even when faced with resistance. As he boarded the plane, with the casket secured and the mission ready to proceed, Carter carried not just the responsibility of transporting the fallen soldier, but also the lessons of advocacy, patience, and moral courage. The journey ahead was still solemn and emotional, but it was now free of unnecessary obstacles, allowing him to focus entirely on honoring the life and service of the young soldier. In every step, every decision, and every moment, Carter's actions reflected the values that had guided him throughout his military career: honor, respect, perseverance, and the unwavering commitment to doing what is right. The day of the flight had finally arrived, and Colonel James Carter was ready. After days of preparation, negotiation, and patience, the moment had come to carry out his mission. The airport was busy, but Carter moved with quiet authority, ensuring that every detail of the journey was handled with precision. The casket containing the fallen soldiers' remains had been secured according to military protocol, and Carter oversaw the process personally, confirming that everything was in place. This was a moment that required both attention to detail and deep respect, and he treated it as such. As he approached the boarding gate, he could feel the weight of the mission pressing on his shoulders, but he remained calm. The struggle to secure approval for the flight had been exhausting, but now the focus was entirely on the solemn duty ahead. Every step he took was measured and deliberate, reflecting the responsibility he carried not just as a military officer, but as a representative of the honor owed to every fallen soldier. The journey was more than physical; it was emotional, symbolic, and profoundly meaningful. The airline staff, now fully aware of the seriousness of the situation, treated the process with care. The casket was carefully loaded onto the plane, and Carter personally ensured that it was positioned securely and respectfully. He communicated clearly with the crew, explaining the importance of the mission and the need for dignity at every stage. His calm authority set the tone, and the staff responded with professionalism, recognizing the gravity of the task. This was no ordinary flight; it was a tribute to courage, sacrifice, and human decency. As the plane began to taxi down the runway, Carter reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the moment he had received the orders to escort the fallen soldier, he had faced unexpected challenges, including the denial from the airline that had sparked national attention. Each obstacle had required patience, strategy, and unwavering commitment. Yet, despite the difficulties, he had maintained his focus on the mission, knowing that the ultimate goal was to honor the soldier and provide closure for the family. During the flight, Carter remained attentive to every detail. He checked on the positioning of the casket, ensured that all documentation was in order, and coordinated with the flight crew regarding any necessary procedures. He understood that maintaining strict attention to protocol was not only a matter of compliance but also a demonstration of respect for the fallen soldier. Each action, each decision, carried symbolic significance, and Carter approached them with both professionalism and compassion. The passengers on the plane, initially unaware of the situation, began to notice the solemnity of the moment. Some quietly observed as Carter spoke with the crew, explaining the mission and the importance of the task. Others were struck by the dignity with which he conducted himself, handling the casket and coordinating the flight with care and precision. For many, it was a powerful lesson in respect, responsibility, and the quiet strength of leadership. Carter's presence transformed the flight into more than transportation. It became a ceremony of honor in motion. As the plane climbed into the sky, Carter allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought about the fallen soldier, the young life that had been cut short, and the impact of that loss on family, friends, and comrades. He considered the sacrifices made by all who serve, the courage required to face danger, and the responsibility of those left behind to ensure that sacrifice is remembered with dignity. This reflection deepened his resolve to carry out the mission flawlessly, treating every action as an expression of respect and honor. Throughout the flight, Carter also prepared for the arrival and the ceremony that would follow. He reviewed the plans for handling the casket upon landing, coordinating with local authorities, military personnel, and the family. He thought carefully about the words he might need to offer support to the grieving family, knowing that presence and empathy were as important as any formal procedure. Each detail was considered, from the timing of the arrival to the way the casket would be moved and presented, ensuring that the fallen soldier received the respect due to him. Despite the challenges he had faced in securing the flight, Carter's attention to detail never wavered. He understood that the significance of the mission was measured not only by overcoming obstacles but by the manner in which it was executed. Every action was an opportunity to demonstrate professionalism, dignity, and the principles of honor that define military service. Carter's calm focus inspired those around him, reminding them that even in the midst of bureaucracy and logistical challenges, respect and humanity must prevail. During the flight, Carter reflected on the broader lessons of the experience. He thought about the subtle barriers that can exist even in structured environments, about the courage required to confront them, and about the impact of persistence and advocacy. He considered how one individual, by standing firm and acting with integrity, could influence institutions, inspire others, and ensure that justice is upheld. The flight, while a means of transportation, had become a metaphor for the journey of respect, perseverance, and moral clarity. As the hours passed, Carter maintained a quiet vigilance. He monitored the condition of the casket, the coordination with the crew, and the progress of the flight, ensuring that every aspect met the highest standards of care. This focus was a testament to his commitment to the mission and to the values he had dedicated his life to upholding. It was a reminder that true leadership is demonstrated not only in moments of triumph but also in the careful, consistent attention to duty, especially when handling the most sensitive responsibilities. The approach to the destination brought a heightened sense of anticipation. Carter knew that the family awaited the return of their loved one and that every detail of the arrival would matter. He prepared for the transition from the flight to the ground, ensuring that the casket would be handled with dignity and that the family would be supported at every step. The culmination of the mission was near, and Carter's focus on respect, compassion, and professionalism had never been stronger. As the plane descended, the mood in the cabin shifted subtly. There was a quiet recognition among the crew and passengers that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The mission was more than a logistical task, it was a demonstration of honor, resilience, and human decency. Carter's calm presence, his attention to detail, and his unwavering commitment to the fallen soldier created a powerful impression, turning an ordinary flight into a profound testament to respect and courage. Upon landing, Carter oversaw the careful disembarkation of the casket. He coordinated with ground personnel, military representatives, and local authorities to ensure that every step of the process was conducted with precision and reverence. The family was notified, and arrangements were made for their arrival at the ceremony site. Carter's professionalism, calm authority, and dedication ensured that the mission was executed flawlessly, honoring the fallen soldier and providing comfort to those who mourned him. Throughout the ceremony, Carter remained attentive, offering quiet support to the family while maintaining the dignity of the event. He reflected on the journey that had brought them here, the challenges, the advocacy, the public attention, and the perseverance required to overcome obstacles. Each step of the process was a demonstration of the values that define military service: honor, respect, and unwavering commitment to duty. Carter's actions ensured that the fallen soldier was treated with the reverence and care he deserved, and that the family could grieve with dignity and closure. As the day drew to a close, Carter took a moment to reflect on the journey and its significance. The flight, which had begun with unexpected resistance, had become a powerful story of persistence, respect, and the importance of standing firm in the face of obstacles. Carter's calm leadership and unwavering dedication had not only ensured the mission's success but had also set an example of moral courage and professionalism for all who witnessed it. The journey had been long, the challenges significant, but the outcome had honored the life and service of a fallen soldier in a way that would be remembered and respected. Colonel James Carter's experience during the flight and the arrival became a testament to the power of integrity, patience, and principled action. It highlighted the importance of advocating for fairness, confronting subtle forms of bias, and ensuring that every individual living or fallen is treated with dignity and respect. The journey had been more than a mission, it was a lesson in leadership, honor, and the enduring significance of human decency. Colonel James Carter had completed the long, solemn journey, but the mission was not yet over. The final step, the return of the fallen soldier to his family, was the most important. After the plane landed, the casket was carefully transferred to a waiting vehicle, and Carter ensured that every detail was handled with precision and respect. Ground personnel, military representatives, and local authorities worked together under his guidance to create a dignified and seamless process. Carter's presence provided reassurance that every step would be executed flawlessly, honoring the soldier's service and sacrifice. As the vehicle carrying the casket slowly made its way to the family's home, Carter reflected on the significance of the journey. It had been filled with challenges, from the initial denial by the airline to the painstaking advocacy and public attention that had finally allowed the mission to proceed. Every obstacle had tested his patience, resilience, and dedication, but he had never wavered in his commitment to fulfilling his duty. The journey had reminded him that true service often involves facing unexpected difficulties and standing firm in the face of injustice. When the family first saw the vehicle approaching, emotions ran high. Tears were shed, and hands were clasped in silent prayer. The anticipation of finally receiving their loved one, after days of worry and uncertainty, was overwhelming. Carter approached the family quietly, allowing them a moment of private grief while providing gentle guidance to ensure the ceremony could proceed with dignity. His calm presence was a source of comfort, reinforcing the respect and care that had been maintained throughout the journey. As the casket was carefully carried into the family home, Carter ensured that it was treated with the utmost reverence. Every movement was deliberate, every step measured, reflecting the honor owed to the fallen soldier. He coordinated with the family and local military representatives to arrange the ceremonial aspects of the transfer, ensuring that tradition and protocol were upheld. Carter's attention to detail and focus on dignity demonstrated the deep respect he held for the soldier, the family, and the values of service. The family expressed profound gratitude to Colonel Carter. Their words were filled with emotion, yet tempered by the solemnity of the moment. They thanked him not only for escorting their loved one home but for standing firm in the face of the obstacles that had threatened to delay the process. Carter accepted their thanks with humility, emphasizing that it was his duty to ensure that every soldier, regardless of background, received the respect and honor they deserved. This exchange highlighted the personal and emotional impact of the mission, reinforcing the importance of dedication, empathy, and moral courage. As the ceremony continued, Carter reflected on the broader significance of the journey. It had become more than a mission to transport a fallen soldier. It had evolved into a story of resilience, advocacy, and the importance of standing up for what is right. The initial denial by the airline had sparked public attention, demonstrating that injustice cannot be ignored and that persistence and integrity can lead to meaningful change. Carter recognized that his actions had not only honored one soldier but had also set an example for others in the military, the airline industry, and the wider public. Throughout the ceremony, Carter maintained his composure, offering support to the family while ensuring that every aspect of the process met the highest standards of respect. He guided the proceedings with quiet authority, demonstrating that true leadership combines empathy, professionalism, and moral clarity. The presence of the family, friends, and fellow service members created an atmosphere of unity and reverence, reinforcing the values that had guided Carter throughout his career: honor, respect, and unwavering commitment to duty. After the family had the opportunity to grieve privately and say their final goodbyes, Carter oversaw the remaining logistical details. He ensured that the casket was transported to the final resting place with the same level of care and attention that had been demonstrated throughout the journey. Every detail, from ceremonial protocols to the timing of the arrival, was executed flawlessly, reflecting the professionalism and dedication that had defined Carter's approach. His actions ensured that the fallen soldier's life was honored with dignity and that the family experienced closure in a meaningful and respectful manner. The completion of the mission brought a deep sense of fulfillment to Colonel Carter. The challenges he had faced, from the denial by the airline to the extensive coordination and advocacy required, had tested his patience, resolve, and commitment to duty. Yet, the successful conclusion reinforced the values he had dedicated his life to upholding: integrity, perseverance, empathy, and respect for all who serve. Carter understood that this mission would remain a defining moment in his career, illustrating the impact that one individual can have when guided by principle and dedication. In the days following the mission, Carter took time to reflect on the experience and its broader implications. The story of the initial denial and the subsequent resolution was shared widely, highlighting issues of fairness, respect, and the importance of standing firm in the face of obstacles. Media outlets, advocacy groups, and military organizations praised Carter's professionalism and moral courage, recognizing that his actions had set a precedent for ensuring that all soldiers, regardless of race or background, receive the dignity and respect they deserve. Carter also considered the lessons for future missions and for the military community at large. The experience underscored the importance of thorough preparation, clear communication, and unwavering attention to detail. It demonstrated that challenges, whether logistical, bureaucratic, or based on subtle prejudice, can be overcome with persistence, professionalism, and moral clarity. Most importantly, it reinforced the principle that the service and sacrifice of every soldier must be honored equally, without exception or compromise. As he returned to his routine duties, Carter carried the memory of the mission with him. It was a reminder of the weight of responsibility borne by those who serve, the importance of standing firm in the face of injustice, and the profound impact of small acts of courage and integrity. He knew that the story of this journey would inspire others, military personnel, veterans, civilians, and organizations alike, to advocate for fairness, uphold dignity, and approach every challenge with patience and respect. The family of the fallen soldier continued to express gratitude long after the ceremony. They shared stories of the young man's life, his bravery, and his kindness, emphasizing how much it meant to them that Colonel Carter had ensured a respectful return. Carter remained in contact, offering continued support and guidance, reinforcing the enduring bonds formed through shared service and sacrifice. The relationship between the family and the officer became a testament to the power of empathy, duty, and human connection in the midst of loss. Carter also took the time to share his experience with colleagues and peers. He spoke about the challenges he had faced, the strategies he had used to advocate effectively, and the lessons learned about patience, persistence, and moral courage. His account became a teaching tool, inspiring other military leaders to approach difficult situations with integrity and to recognize the importance of standing up for fairness and respect. The story highlighted that leadership is not only about decision-making in the field but also about advocacy, empathy, and unwavering commitment to core values. Over time, the incident with the airline became more than a personal challenge, it became a story of change and awareness. Policies were reviewed, and organizations recognized the need to ensure that procedures never again created unnecessary obstacles for those escorting fallen soldiers. Carter's actions had sparked conversations, inspired reform, and underscored the importance of vigilance, professionalism, and moral courage in all aspects of service. What had begun as a mission to honor one soldier had grown into a broader lesson about the power of integrity and advocacy. Looking back, Colonel Carter understood the journey as a reflection of the principles that had guided his life and career. The mission had tested him in ways both expected and unforeseen, but it had also reaffirmed his belief in the importance of doing what is right, even when faced with resistance. He recognized that honor is not merely a concept but a practice demonstrated through actions, attention to detail, and unwavering commitment to those we serve. As he finally returned to his daily duties, Carter carried with him a sense of fulfillment and purpose. The mission to escort the fallen soldier had been completed with dignity, respect, and honor, providing closure for the family and setting an example for others. The story of the denial, the advocacy, the flight, and the ceremony would live on as a reminder of the importance of courage, perseverance, and unwavering dedication to duty. It was a legacy that Carter understood well, one life honored, one family comforted, and a powerful lesson shared about the enduring values of service, integrity, and respect. Colonel James Carter's experience became a symbol of what it means to serve with honor. The obstacles he faced, the patience he maintained, and the moral courage he demonstrated ensured that a fallen soldier was treated with dignity and that a family received closure. His actions highlighted the importance of persistence in the face of injustice, the power of careful planning and advocacy, and the profound impact of empathy and leadership. The journey was a testament to the values that define military service: courage, honor, integrity, and unwavering commitment to doing what is right.